What if your life was all wrong? I want to start with a question that almost never arrives early. What if it was all wrong? Not wrong in the sense of immoral, not wrong in the sense of wasted effort, wrong in a quieter, more destabilizing way, wrong in its organizing principle. This question comes from a short book by Tolstoy called The Death of Ivan Ilyich. But it's not really a literary question, it's a psychological one. And more specifically, it's a question that tends to arrive only when the usual ways of protecting ourselves from it stop working. Ivan Ilyich is not a tragic hero. He's not a villain. He's not broken. He's competent, respectable, successful, and socially approved. He does what he's supposed to do. He builds a life that looks correct from the outside and feels stable for a very long time, until it doesn't. And what's striking about his story is that nothing catastrophic happens until the very end. There is no moral collapse, no dramatic failure, no scandal. What happens instead is pain. And pain does something psychologically precise. It strips away distraction. That's when the question appears. What if it was all wrong? Not my job, not my marriage, not my choices in isolation. But what if the way I organized my life was wrong? This is where people often misunderstand Ivan Ilyich. They read the story as a condemnation of ambition or status, as if Tolstoy were warning against success itself. That misses the point. Ivan Ilyich is not punished for wanting a good life. He's confronted with the realization that he never asked for what kind of good he was serving. Psychologically, this matters. Ivan Ilyich lived a correct life. Correct lives are built around minimizing friction. They privilege stability over depth, approval over authorship, predictability over inquiry. A correct life is not fake. It's just externally authored. From early on, Ivan learns what's rewarded, what's admired, what's considered proper. He internalizes those standards and lives with them faithfully. His emotional world adjusts accordingly. Discomfort's avoided, inconvenience is smoothed over. Relationships they function as roles rather than encounters. And for a long time, this works. This is something modern readers often resist admitting. Most externally authored lives function extremely well. They produce careers, families, order, respect. The problem is not dysfunction. The problem is misalignment. A life can be efficient and still feel hollow at its center. The reason Ivan Ilyich's question is so unsettling is that it arrives after success, not after failure. If his life had fallen apart earlier, the reckoning would be easier. He could blame circumstances, bad luck, other people. But the unbearable possibility is this. What if nothing went wrong, and yet the whole thing missed the point? This is why the question terrifies people. What if it was all wrong does not mean everything was wasted. It means the central axis was misaligned. The effort was real, the devotion was real, the suffering was real. But the thing those efforts served never truly belonged to him. Psychologically speaking, this is the difference between identity as performance and identity as authorship. Performance is not deceit. Performance is adaptation. It's learning what works and repeating it. Authorship requires something far more uncomfortable. It requires confronting uncertainty without immediately replacing it with reassurance. Most people do not avoid authorship because they're shallow. They avoid it because it destabilizes the self. Ivan Ilyich did not wake up one day and decide to live wrongly. He lived exactly as his environment trained him to live. That's what makes his realization so devastating. There is no villain to blame. There's only recognition. And recognition, when it arrives late, is brutal. It's important to say this clearly. Ivan Ilyich does not gain insight because he's dying. He gains insight because dying removes the last distractions. Pain collapses the scaffolding of social performance. Politeness stops mattering. Professional roles evaporate. Reassuring narratives lose their power. And what remains is the raw psychological question. Was I living from the inside, or was I maintaining an arrangement? This is not a question people fail to ask because they're unintelligent. It's a question that modern life is exceptionally good at postponing. There's always another task, another metric, another self-improvement, another explanation. Even self-reflection can become a distraction when it's used to soothe rather than examine. Ivan Ilyich had no more noise available to him, and that's why the question finally arrived. And here's the part that matters most to me. This question is not pathological. What if it was all wrong? It's not a sign of collapse. It's a sign of developmental readiness. It's the moment when a person realizes that functioning and coherence are not the same thing. Many people watching this are not lost. They're doing fine. They're capable, responsible, admired. And yet there is a faint, persistent sense of being slightly misplaced inside their own lives. Not dramatic dissatisfaction, not despair, just a quiet feeling that something important has been indefinitely deferred. Those are the people this story reaches. Not because they want to abandon their lives, but because they want to understand them. Tolstoy does something psychologically honest at the end of the book. He doesn't offer comfort quickly. Relief comes late, and even then it's ambiguous. There is no triumphant redemption arc. Ivan Ilyich does not fix his life. He sees it clearly. That distinction matters. Clarity is not consolation, it's alignment. And alignment doesn't promise happiness. It promises honesty. The reason this story endures is not because it frightens us with death, but because it confronts us with authorship. It asks whether the life we are protecting is the one we chose or the one we inherited and maintained out of momentum. Most people aren't afraid of being wrong. They're afraid of discovering that they were faithful to something that never truly belonged to them. Ivan Ilyich did not fail at life. He succeeded at a script he never chose. And that realization, however painful it is also where psychological honesty begins. I'm not offering an answer to that question here. I don't think it's meant to be answered quickly. It's meant to organize attention, to shift a life from correctness to authorship, from performance to presence. So I'll leave it where Tolstoy leaves it, not with reassurance, but with the question itself, now placed gently but firmly in the room with you. What if it was all wrong? And what might change if you let that question do its work?